initially in the early game, then getting set behind an Olaf, especially Olaf's in his current state, is a rough affair. And considering the current form of Humble Life, they have a composition that even if the early game goes alright, right, like say that Koroko Fate get really far ahead, say that Summit picks up a kill or two, they should still have a very comfortable late game plan with this amount of raw team fighting power.
Oh, absolutely. I'm terrified. If this game goes past 35 minutes, I think Humble Life Esports just win by default with the champions that they've picked up. But they do have to get there, and there are a lot of tools in the mid-game for Live Sandbox. And I like that they're playing fast and loose, you know? Like, I feel like this is everyone wearing their Croco hat, trying to join him in his march of the mid-game. And let's see whether they can get it done as we hop onto the Rift here for game number 1.
You do see Arthur with interesting pathing, because he did have to go... Oh, boy. Summit.
God, that passive just does so much damage. Oh, level 2 Gangplank.
At that point on, it's an unfortunate situation. Does get the bounce there as well. And Croco, I don't think you can go for this one, man.
Nope, because Dudu has absolute control of his lane. Croco's still moving on over as Summit, after his teleport, not going to be able to get over here. Fate has the inside track, but there's an Azir coming in as well. And they want to try and fight this one. That's a flash forward from Croco. Spear is going to land, and first blood goes to Summit, and the double buffs. I take it all back. It was genius. Arthur is going to find him moving over here, as he's only level 5, and the bubble is going to connect, so no Ragnarok to get rid of that one. Paddlestar not going to do too much, and I think Arthur was hoping that there wasn't quite enough mana left for that bubble, but had just enough as Croco is going to come on over. Chovy over here as well as a track repel comes in. There's the flash crash down as in goes Chovy, gets the Emperor's Divide. Croco, Primal Surge, keeps himself alive as well, but Vista comes on over, and that's going to be a confirmed kill onto the Olaf. Fantastic work for Humble Life to get Arthur back into this one after the unfortunate death. And this feels like a transition of power for Hanwha, as Effort still not wanting to give this one away, but he's not going to be able to contest the jungler on the Raptor camp, and he will successfully steal that one up. We'll spot the fact that Shelly has been started, but Chovy, without very much priority here in the mid lane, and Effort's just going to roam on through. Ragnarok is there. It's going to get him out of the sleepy trouble bubble as Cannon Barrage comes down as well. No flash, remember, on Effort, and he's just going to be taken down. Last little axe swing, and that will confirm it. Good sidestep, but Arthur is on the wrong side of the map, and he will be taken down. So a 1-for-1 bubble is going to be a little bit short. Shifting Sands gets Chovy out, has to flash to get away from that Void Seeker, and Dudu is also going to pay the price. So Shelly will get started again, and Live Sandbox continue to find advantages. Absolutely flawless execution there. As we have a look at the replay here of the cacophony of a team fight around this Rift Herald.
And here we see that initially this play looks very, very nice, but the priority has been found. Beautiful setup from that wave there. From Rudu comes in from the bot side. Meanwhile, Arthur is caught between a rock and a hard place. The rest of the team can't really find the angle. And with Dudu, like I said, he's not really in a position to get that much done here. Gangplank, yes, in the laning phase he's strong, but in these skirmishes he doesn't really bring that much yet. Looking up beautifully. And a really impressive zone thus far from this team that I don't think we had a lot of expectations from.
Whoa, that is a very aggressive Featherstorm. As in goes the grand entrance. Root's going to burn down with that ignite, but it's not going to quite do enough damage by the looks of things. Let's see whether they can actually do enough damage to it. No, she's going to turn her eye around, and there goes the turret. Oh, bubble lands. Chovy tries to flash out, but he's not going to be able to. Croco happy to go aggressive. Spear not going to connect as Fate flashing on forward with one that he picked up earlier. And Shirley is going to grab a double charge.
Of course, there is a lot of safety involved here. That goes for the 1v1.
Yeah, plate call is good as Root is going to have to use that killer instinct. Out goes Vista. Battle Dancer's back to death as well. Crashdown's great. Magnet Storm's fantastic as the feathers fly, but they don't do enough. And that's the double kill coming through from Fate. And I think that first in the LCK for damage percent is going to continue.
They get back in the brush, but wouldn't have mattered for this Drake specifically, right? Like, they're not going to be able to pick this up. They are way too far behind in terms of spikes. Croco and Fate are monstrously fed. And you know what's really nice, Atlas, is when you're like, okay,
it's Croco. Here's the sandwich. Ward goes down, teleport comes in. It is going to be a 4 versus 3. Root still making his way over, but has the killer instinct available. Good knockup as Chovy comes in. Emperor's Divide is massive effort, trying to flash himself out. Are they too far behind though? As it's a 1-for-1. The Gangplank takes down the Rel, but Rel isn't super important right now as Fate just obliterates Deft. And in this chaos, that's where Live Sandbox thrive.
And Live Sandbox seem to have done it here. They seem to have broken Hanwha Live, and this from a team that was on such a rough losing streak. And I'd also like to flip it around. I love that the LCK is this chaotic, this split, right? Every team just keeps getting beaten. By the time you think they figured it out, they get beaten again. They get like absolutely demolished, and I think that this is one where you go back into the drafting board next game. Okay, we could not get away with this. We took too many early game bad skirmishes, and with this comp, you're in for a whole lot of pain. Second turret about to fall as well.
Yep, Deft at half health already, does still have the Featherstorm as here's the Desperation engage. They look for Root, who's going to get over the wall, but he's burning down. The last tick will do it from the Ignite. So now no Kai'Sa for Liv Sandbox, and they will back away. Not forced to use his Ragnarok or anything like that. Vista is very low, tries to eat some of the honey fruit as, oh no, Dudu caught out with the bubble. Chovy's going to soak the Paddle Star, and they're just slowly but surely falling down. The quickness goes in, but it's more defensively than offensively as the bubble barely misses Chovy, but they're just trying to get their position. Empress Divide into the backline as Fate's going down so low, but he's got the stopwatch. He's going to be okay. Cannon Barrage trying to keep Dudu in it, and Fate's still raining damage down from everywhere. It's a double kill from the limping Zoe, and a double also through for Summit. They should be able to grab this Elder if they'd like to, but this is definitely game over.
Beautifully played there from Liv Sandbox. The restraint on this team, because we said it, if you do go for an immediate all-out fight, if you try to force it, it might still go alright. Instead, they play it so slow. Summit, Croco and Fate got so much damage done before that fight even began, and you see Hanwha Live just slowly having to see territory
to win as well. As we have a look at some of these damage numbers on the screen, it is a sub 30-minute victory here for Liv Sandbox. Not their fastest so far, but still very good. And as you can see, it's once again Fate doing the majority of the work here for this team. Looking over the other side, it's unfortunate for Arthur, but he wasn't able to get off the ground really. Deft was trying the best that he could. Chovy also had a couple of moments there, but they just really weren't allowed to get online. They were too far behind, and Liv Sandbox just forced them to play at their tempo.
Welcome back everybody for the last match day of the LCK week number 4 before we are heading off to a very long break for the Lunar New Year. And today we'll be joined by Subinhyun, Victory, and Gorilla for this analyst desk. We still got 2 matches to go, and game number 1 was going over to the side of Liv Sandbox up against Hanwha Live Esports. So Liv Sandbox was able to complete their Kai'Sa Rel comp in their first pick phase of the game. Kai'Sa paired up with Rel or Samira paired up with Rel was the top priority for Liv Sandbox, but Hanwha Live, they actually prioritized Olaf for their first pick. And Rel, a POG maker champion here in the meta, was able to fall to the hands of Effort. So a lot of people actually criticize that Sandbox has a very weak bottom duo, but with this pick secured in the very early phase, they were actually able to come back with stronger performance. For Liv Sandbox, I think they had a really nice comp because they had this early 3 bans going over to the support card. And we also want to point out that Hanwha Live wanted to get Olaf as soon as possible, so Liv Sandbox was easily able to get that early bottom duo comp completed. I think the centerpiece of this comp was actually Zoe in the mid lane. Azir can get priority in most of the matchup, but Fate was able to stay solid in the mid lane with the Zoe. And other than the kills coming out from Zoe, it was really impressive to see how kind of Hanwha Live start to fall apart once Chovy loses the lane priority. So let's take a look at the early game skirmish where Liv Sandbox was able to take a huge step ahead. So we want to point out the jungle status right here. Both Nidalee and Olaf was setting up for the scuttle, and Nidalee was up in farm. So she was actually looking for some setup for this fight. And let's take a look at these item inventory. So those jungle item actually tells if the player has smite up or not. And Nidalee was also having a higher HP bar, so she was actually looking for this fight instead of going for the smite fight because she didn't have her smite yet. And also we want to point out that Nar was also contributing to his team by giving up the whole wave and joining the fight. So it was really smart play coming out from Leaf Sandbox. Instead of going for the smite contention, they actually went all in for that kill and skirmish. And props to Nar as well for joining the fight instead of looking for some farm numbers. And also Zoe was having a huge priority, so she was able to join that fight faster than Azir. It's really huge that top laner actually gave up that huge minion wave and went for the fight. So props to Leaf Sandbox making such a decisive decision for that early game skirmish. And that actually was connected to the top priority, jungle priority, and also the mid lane priority. But let's take a look at the second highlight where Leaf Sandbox was able to solidify their lead. With that Herald, they were actually able to raise the turret. So Toby, because he wanted to protect that first tier turret, he actually oversteps a little bit, so they were able to pick up a kill very easily with that CC engage. Even though Leaf Sandbox is on the 10th place, they actually was able to do their own game plans, and they were able to stand strong up against this Goliath. And let's take a look at the bottom lane play as well. Deft actually looks for a setup in order to get a pick onto Kai'Sa. A little bit of assassination coming out, but after having a huge success on the mid lane, the rest of the Leaf Sandbox players were able to rotate down and turn the fight around. So heads off to Leaf Sandbox for executing their own team play. Even they were facing up against some of the top tier team in the LCK, and also they were able to accelerate their tempo of macro in this game. So I think they made a huge process during their preparation up until today. And Leaf Sandbox, a lot of people have been keep mentioning that they have good early stats, and Fate, the POG, was the core member that allowed them to connect this early lead into a game victory. Fate started off the lane with the control, and with this early game skirmish happened in the jungle, the jungler was able to kind of outplay the opponents with the level lead, and that was all coming out from the team play on the side of Leaf Sandbox. And the point of the match was if Fate can shut down Chovy and stop him from spreading his impact all around the map, and he did manage to pull that off. And after the early game fight, Summit was able to, get double buff and start accelerating the lead in the early phase. GP had some good games in the early phase, but Nar came back with double belts around his waist. And bottom duo as well, they were able to find the strongest comp in order to compensate their slump. And they were able to come back stronger today. And 9-9 over to Fate. Leaf Sandbox is on a 7 games losing streak, but now they managed to make it end. So let's move on to game number 2.